Hello and welcome back to Reads as we continue with Nancy Drew Whispers in the Fog. 8. Surf's up. Ooh, Bess moaned. My leg really hurts. Yes, doctor gave us some medicine for the pain, Nancy said, quickly slipping the note into a jeans pocket. I'll get you something to drink. Nancy took a bottle of juice from the minibar. In the bathroom decorated with gold and blue tiles, she poured the juice in the glass. I'm not going to tell Bess about the note tonight, she thought. Tomorrow's soon enough. Bess is already upset and sore, and what she really needs is a good night's sleep. Nancy took the note from her pocket and read it again. Scotto knows where our room is, she thought. He was here last night. She slipped the note back to her pocket, her mind a whirl. Scotto's car was parked outside the diner earlier, she told herself, and he wasn't inside. He could have cut the axle then. But what about Andy Jason? Why was he hanging around the clinic after we talked? He was definitely watching us. Why? Proof, she mumbled as she stepped in the minibar again to get a couple of ice cubes. I need proof. Beth said wearily from her bed. What'd you say? We need a break in the case, Nancy said. Ooh, don't say break to someone who's just crashed a bicycle, Beth groaned with a lopsided smile. Right, Nancy said. Do you need anything? 10 hours of sleep, Beth said, taking her medicine and finishing her juice before falling heavily back on the bed. I'm going to run down to the reception area, Nancy said. Back in a minute. Beth hummed, her eyes closed. Nancy went downstairs where she found Mrs. Opry, the innkeeper. Good evening, Nancy said. She took a deep breath and gave the woman a warm smile. She didn't want to alarm Mrs. Opry or even make her suspicious. Did anyone stop by to see Bess, Ned, or me this evening? Why, no, Mrs. Opry said. Were you expecting someone? Well, yes, actually. I didn't know whether they stopped by or not. You haven't heard from them. Who were you expecting? Friends from ours from River Heights, Nancy said. A man and a woman. Or maybe just one of them. They weren't sure they could both make it. We thought we'd be home sooner than they were. Well, I wasn't down here every minute, of course, but I don't believe anyone came. Thanks, Nancy said. I'm sure we'll hear from them tomorrow. She smiled again and went back upstairs. Her bed and the soft quilts were a welcome heaven. Nancy awoke early Monday morning and went to the balcony outside her room. The air was damp and foggy. Nancy read the note again. It was in pencil, hand-printed in black capital letters. Apparently the author knew that it would be more difficult to identify the handwriting. Someone sneaked up here and slipped this note under the door, Nancy told herself. Someone who knew our room number. She went inside. Bess was sleeping soundly. Nancy sat in the desk corner of the room and dialed the sheriff's office. Hello, Sheriff Harvey, she said, keeping her voice low so she wouldn't wake Bess. Did you get the fingerprint report? Yes, I did, the sheriff told her. The fingerprints we lifted from Katie Firestone's boat do not match anything we have on file here. Have you heard of anyone named Joan Kim? Nancy asked. She told the sheriff about the meeting and the dinner the night before. Just what I need, he grumbled. Another outside were poking around. I don't mean you, Miss Drew, he said. You're practically a professional from what Katie says. Well, I guess I better find out who Joan Kim is and what she's doing around here. Then Nancy told Sheriff Harvey about the threatening note she received. Seems my work is cut out for me today, isn't it? The sheriff said. I don't like the sound of that one bit. I'll send someone over to pick it up right away. I'll leave it at the desk with Miss Opry, Nancy told him. When she hung up, she copied the message in her notebook, and then she put the original in an envelope, sealed it, put the director's name on the front, and ran down the large antique desk Mrs. Opry used for guest check-in. By the time Nancy returned to the room, Bess was up and getting dressed. How are you feeling? Nancy asked, watching Bess pulling wide-legged blue cotton pants gingerly up over her scraped leg. Like I've been hit by a sneaker wave, Bess answered, moaning. Actually, it doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would. I'm not going to do any kayaking today, though. I'm not sure anyone is, Nancy said, gazing out the window. It's pretty foggy out there. They finished getting ready about the time Ned rapped on their door. He helped Bess down the stairs, and Nancy drove the rental car to Katie's. Over breakfast, Nancy told the others about the note and showed them the copy she'd made. Katie and George told me about your adventures out in the bluffs at diner, Jenna said, and I'm so sorry to hear about Bess's crash. How are you doing this morning, Bess? Better, thanks, Bess said, smearing a muffin with boysenberry jam. Nancy told Aaron about her conversation with Sheriff Harvey. I think he was trying to tell us something when he emphasized that he didn't have anything on file to match the prints. Katie said, Holt Scott got us in some trouble a few months ago. There was some kind of brawl outside the diner, and he and others were taken by the sheriff. They were booked and spent the night in jail, I think, but they were released next day. So he would have Scotto's prints on file, Ned concluded. Which still doesn't rule him out, George pointed out, feeling an orange. Even though his prints don't match the ones Sheriff Harvey collected, it doesn't mean he didn't do it. He could have worn gloves, for example. Did the sheriff say he was going to talk to you about the Scotto person about any of this, Jenna asked. Not exactly, Nancy said. He didn't like the looks of the axle on the bicycle, though, and he sent someone overnight to pick up the note. Sheriff Harvey is a good man, Katie said. I trust him to do everything I can. Look, I don't see how anyone can track down who wrote that note, Jenna said. Not if I look the way you said and the innkeeper didn't see who delivered it. Well, I can't figure it out, Nancy said, her eyes narrowing as she thought. It's how someone knew about Bess's accident as soon as it happened, unless, of course, that person was following us. Everyone was quiet for a moment, lost in their own thoughts. It's like you said, Nancy, Katie finally noted. This is a small town. I'm always amazed how fast news and rumors spread. Katie, Jenna, and George were determined to go kayaking, so after breakfast they started packing up the gear. Jenna brought a spare kayak, but seemed reluctant to lend it. Katie had 3 spares, and since Bess would be staying on shore, Nancy, Ned, and George were all supplied. This is a great spot for sea kayaking, Katie said. It has a perfect balance of wind, waves, and tide. And it's kind of remote, so we shouldn't have bothered by anyone. Good, Bess said. I want the beach to myself. They both decided to take Katie and Jenna's vans, and by noon they had both vehicles packed. As they were walking to the car, the phone rang. Katie went to answer it in case it was sheriff with news about his investigation. As the others milled around the vans, Andy, Jason's large luxury car, glided in Katie's driveway. And Nancy was instantly on guard, remembering the way he had watched while pulling out of the clinic parking lot the night before. Well, Jane, Andy, Jason said as he climbed out of the car, I hope you're better this morning. He looked down her wrist, wrapped in an elastic bandage. Oh, Linny, and Andy said, turning to Nancy, so I find you with Katie Firestone again. Over Jason's shoulder, Nancy could see Jenna. The young woman looked surprised when she heard Andy called Nancy and Bess by their undercover names. Then Nancy saw George and Ned take Jenna's arms and pull by the van. Nancy was sure they were filling her in. Hello, Andy, Katie said as she walked out of the house and out the driveway. How come every time I turn around you're here? I just here to lend a hand, Andy said in a jovial, good-natured manner. I heard your boat was trashed. I'm here to offer you one of mine until yours gets fixed. I appreciate it, but you wasted a trip, Katie answered. My boat is in working order. It's interesting that you should bring up vandalizing of Miss Firestone's boat, Nancy said, thinking fast. As a matter of fact, that's why Janie and I are here. She told us about it when she kindly gave us a ride last night. We came back this morning to get a story about the incident of the Canyon Courier. She smiled at Andy. How'd you find out about it? Nancy asked. I'm surprised word got down around the coast so fast. Were you in our area when it happened by any chance? For a moment, Andy glared at Nancy, searching her expression. Then he relaxed and said with a grin, Why, we whale watchers have to get together. Right, Katie? He turned away from Nancy toward Katie. You know, if you just worked for me, you wouldn't have these kinds of problems. What's that supposed to mean? Katie asked. I just mean that if your boat was part of my fleet, you get the advantage of my full security force and system behind you. Your boat wouldn't have to sit isolated on some dock where anyone can come aboard, ransack, and tear up your motor. Andy, give it up, Katie said. I'm staying independent. You might as well accept it. Okay, I'll leave, but I'm not giving up. he said, shaking his head as he walked back to his car. You will come work for me. He gave all of a jaunty wave and drove off. I'm telling you, that guy gives me the creeps, George said as she, Ned, and Jenna emerged from behind the van. He's just so smooth. It was the clinic that called, Katie reported. Best, your wrist's definitely not broken, but it is sprained. You need to keep it wrapped for a few days and not use it as much. Sounds like an afternoon of lazy beachcombing is an approved activity, Beth said, heading for Katie's van. Let's get going. I agree, Jenna said. It's time to forget all this detective stuff. Get on our real mission in life. Sea kayaking. Shift all her gear one last time. Wait a minute, she said. Where's my helmet? Did someone take my helmet? Everyone checked helmets in both vans. Jenna's was definitely missing. I have a couple of extras packed, Katie said. You can use one of them. Come on, we need to go. It's nearly an hour's drive, and there's killer fog that rolls up around here. If we get stuck in it, it could be dangerous. They all piled in the vans and took off. Kate, Nancy, and Ned rode with Jenna, Bess, and George with Katie. Each van had 2 kayaks fastened on top and one resting in the back. Piles of wetsuits, paddles, helmets, goggles, and other gear took up the rest of the space. They finally came to a desolate stretch of coastline that seemed to go on for miles. There were no buildings, not even a cabin or a motel. This must be private property, Nancy reasoned. There's no development anywhere. Within minutes, they came to a high wire fence with a simple no trespassing signs on it. Katie led Jenna down a road that ran along the side of the fence to the shore. They parked the vans and began loading their gear. Jenna changed to her wetsuit and grabbed her kayaking gear. Then she ran to the beach. Bess ambled slowly after her. This area was different from the Sea Lion Nursery Beach. There were huge rock formations farther out of the water, but close to shore. George, I know you've kayaked and surfed, Katie said, but Nancy and Ned, you need a quick course on how to maneuver in this water. Let's get the gear out and I'll give you some pointers. They changed into their wetsuits and then unpacked the vans and spread the gear out. First, everybody gets an emergency kit, Katie said, passing out the items. Keep 2 pocket flares inside your wetsuit, the larger parachute flares out in the boat. If you're in trouble, fire a large one first. It can be seen as far as 10 or 15 miles and goes up about 1,500 feet. The pocket flares attract someone closer and go up a third as far. Out of the corner of her eye, Nancy saw Jenna standing at the edge of the water trying to get on one of Katie's helmets. Bess sat at the back of the beach on a large piece of driftwood next to Jenna's, sifting the sand through her fingers. As Nancy pulled on her life jacket, the sound of Bess yelling caused her to look up immediately. Bess had gotten up and was limping toward the water. Her arm was outstretched as if she were reaching for something. Nancy started toward Bess, walking at first and then breaking a run. She could hear George, Katie, and Ned following her. Nancy kept her eyes on Bess, limping slowly toward the water. It was almost like watching a movie in slow motion. Bess seemed to be yelling again, but Nancy couldn't hear over the roar of the surf. As Nancy sprinted across the beach, she looked in the direction Bess was reaching. In her horror, she saw Bess was yelling about. A huge wave was roaring toward the shore. Unaware, Jenna, her back to the ocean, was adjusting the helmet around her ears. Nancy ran faster, but she was too late. No one could reach Jenna in time. Helpless, Nancy watched the wave fold over the beach and crash. When the foaming water retreated, Jenna was gone. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.